Hi, team. Welcome to 10 Talks. Today's conversation is all about gut health, and we're hearing about it everywhere. Everyone's concerned about it. What is it? Do we need to be concerned about it? How do we know how it relates to us? And really, what is this and how do I know if it's something that I can be concerned about? Or most importantly, what do I do to really make it better? So we have our team doctor, as always. Dr. Hunter is with us and she is an expert in this. So grateful to have you, Dr. Hunter. And just give us a quick intro in terms of why gut health? Why are you interested in it?
Yeah, thanks, Carlette. I mean, as you said, gut health is really trending right now. I love learning more about how the integrity and the health of our gut and our intestinal system really translates to total body health. And the real beauty of it is that we have the ability to improve our gut health. So that's what I love with lifestyle medicine, what I put in my body and what I do with my body and how it translates to health overall. And so, really being able to help people identify, hey, if I'm not feeling great, maybe it's due to my gut health. Maybe things are not in alignment in my gut and my microbiome. And what can I do to change that? So, that's what I'm really excited to share.
Well, and team, we are doing a 10-part series on this, the top 10 things about gut health. So every week we're going to be bringing you just a bit of a workout on what to do, how to do it, and just have you be able to implement 1 week at a time, one change at a time, so that you can really feel it, experience it, determine what's working for you, what's not working for you, and give you the opportunity to really train to change your gut health. And what I value so much about this is that I think of our three brains: our mind, our heart, and our gut. And with our mind, we know that's mental health. We know how important that is. We've certainly come into the power of our minds and well being. Our heart, our emotional health, we really understand the power of feelings, the power of emotions, and now connecting with that gut health. And what's so interesting about gut health is it's showing up, from a mental perspective and from a heart perspective. We can feel like we're covering that up. We can feel like nobody's noticing the anxiety we're feeling or really the noise in our head, or if we're not so fabulous in terms of feeling emotionally happy or not. But gut health, it shows up in our skin. It shows up in how we're looking, how we're feeling, how we're acting. We really can't hide our gut health. And so I think that's such a gift for us to really own. Wow, if I want to look better, if I want to feel better, it starts inside, which is true mentally, emotionally, and from a gut perspective. But this is the joy of this journey that we're going on: is if you want to look fabulous, feel fabulous, be fabulous, let's start on the inside. And we've talked a lot about mentally how to do it, emotionally how to do it. Let's just talk about the top 10 things for how to do it with our gut health. And today, our first one is really the introduction. What is it? And I want to start with a quick assessment so that we can really listen in and think, do I need this? What's happening? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how is my gut health? So, Dr. Hunter, take us through how we start with really anchoring in on assessing our gut health.
Yeah, thank you. So we have a really nice assessment built out for you guys, and I'm going to kind of go through some of the common questions that are in the assessment. This will give you an idea, you know, stat it up, right? Am I a 1 or a 10 on gut health? And really the first question we get to is how often are you having gut symptoms, right? So constipation, feeling bloated, heartburn, diarrhea, irritable bowel. Maybe you've heard of that or been diagnosed with that. How often are those symptoms showing up for you? And we're gonna kind of give you a score on that. Is it less than once a month? Is it every day? That kind of gives you a range and an indication of maybe how good or poor your gut health is. So really, you know, I like the thought about when we think about the gut, it's our intestines, it's the microbiome, but also it's kind of like that gut check, right? How
Mm,
do how do you feel? Part of your intuition almost. So really thinking about, am I kind of troubled all the time in
mm,
in my gut? Am I worried? Um, we know there's a big gut brain connection. Really, how often is your gut talking to you?
mm.
How often are you bothered by it? That's the first place to think and start. Then we kind of delve into, do you take a lot of medications, right? Whether they're prescription or over the counter, because we know those things can alter the microbiome. And maybe you need the medications because of your gut health, right? So that kind of gives us an indication to say, okay, maybe we're dealing with some gut issues, or we're uh, potentially harming our gut health. And then also thinking about what kind of conditions run in your family, or what kind of health concerns do you have because of family history. We know that gut health relates to overall health, so improving the gut can really help reduce your risk of those familial conditions. Then we're going to talk about nutrition,
Mm.
right? What are we putting in? And really thinking about the plants in our diet. So thinking about how many different kinds of plant foods are you eating per week, directly feeding the gut. We're also going to talk about how the gut and our mood
Mhm.
connect. So where would you put yourself? Are you happy, neutral, unhappy? Where over the last 2 weeks. Also, we know gut health directly relates to immunity. So how often do you get sick? Do you get a sniffle or a cold or a flu every year or every season, or every time your kids come home with something, you're getting it too? That may be a really a marker of how well your gut is functioning if you're getting sick frequently. Food intolerances and sensitivities are going to be a whole segment of their own. So really, are there foods you need to avoid because you feel unwell if you eat them? That's a good place to kind of key in. And with all of lifestyle medicine, we think about not just the the food intake, but our other intakes. So how well are you sleeping? We know there's a connection between the gut and our sleep. Often does stress impact you? And we also think about exercise as a way to improve gut health, but also kind of mark where we are on our gut health.
So great starting place for us, really, to get our baseline and be able to just evaluate. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would I say my gut health is? And most importantly, how are you feeling? I mean, I love the awareness of being able to say, okay, I do get ill quite a bit, or I do feel bloated or constipated, or all, and I just thought, I need a medicine for that. I need something to fix it. Well, what a gift to say, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to really engage and be there for my body and my gut in a way that I'm going to be curious and figure this out. And so, the other part that's interesting as we have the desire to figure it out and get great at it, what are the issues that can be related to our poor gut health?
Yeah, it's really has been said that all health begins in the gut.
Mm,
This Hippocrates that actually said that many thousands of years ago. He's probably the original lifestyle medicine physician. If we give everybody the right amount of food and the right amount of activity, we can attain optimal health. But it's really when the health of our gut, and every time I say gut, I'm really talking about our colon, our large intestine. And when it's not working well, um, a lot of systems are impacted. So we've talked about our immune health already. Your mental health actually can be directly impacted when your gut is not working optimally. Um, Also, inflammation.
mhm,
So, the bloating. I would, as Carlette was saying earlier, your skin,
mm.
right? Are you battling acne? Are you having a lot of um, oil problems or dry skin? It's kind of all related. And I think of inflammation really as the basis of all chronic disease.
Mm.
So it shows up for different people in different ways. It might be heart disease for some, it might be arthritis and joint pain for others. And when we really start targeting the things that can improve inflammation through our work in lifestyle medicine, it really starts healing our gut and decreasing that inflammation. And we can see reversing these chronic diseases and changes.
Well, and also just in terms of autoimmune diseases, I mean, some very and things that are affecting us that are very scary in terms of thinking, oh my gosh, I have no control over this. And I really love the power of us controlling our health and gaining that control. So, as we think about just an introduction to owning our gut health, enjoying the journey of it, being curious about it, what's the first thing that we can do that's really powerful to start to be great for our gut.
Yeah, I think it is just having that awareness,
Mhm.
right? So starting to tune in, how do I feel? How many days of symptoms do I have when I eat certain things? Is it a 1 or a 10, you know?
Mhm.
And really just starting to kind of recognize the gut as an important factor in our health and something that we should really treat with respect and really frame our lifestyle around a focus on gut health because everything else kind of falls into line once that is addressed. And, there's a lot more going on in our digestive system than just breaking down food to absorb nutrients and eliminate waste. As we were referring to, it's kind of the gateway to inflammation. There's a whole immune system that exists in your gut, right? There's a whole nervous system that exists in the gut. So it really has a lot more to do with just foods doing food and digestion. But what happens when food gets down to the GI tract into the colon, the microbiome gets to start digesting that food for us, helping us absorb nutrients. But there are also secondary processes that are happening. So um, these bacteria and single-celled organisms are creating new molecules, new things. Most of the serotonin in our body is made in our gut.
Mm.
It's so the health of those critters that I like to call your microbiome really has a big impact on what happens. If you have the right makeup
Mm.
of organisms um, to ensure that you have proper immunity, that you have decreased inflammation. I've been reading a lot about weight maintenance and how important a healthy gut is for maintaining and keeping a healthy weight. So we want to really focus in on the things that we know to improve gut health so that we do have the right ecosystem in our colon really performing for us to improve our health.
Well, Dr. Hunter, you're talking our language in terms of the power of team. And, so many times we talk about a team meaning other people, and we're joining a pickleball team or a basketball team or a volleyball team. Let's join our team in terms of starting with our body as the first team we have. And let's talk about, as you referred to, the critters. Let's put them as teammates and let's
Yeah.
really design this 10 life of ours and be able to stat it up on a scoreboard perspective and think about, okay, what I put in my body, what's my score on a scale of 1 to 10? How does it make me feel? Is my mind healthy? Do I feel less stress? Like, let's get real about really being intentional about whatever we do. Is it giving us the result that we want? And what's the team of critters that we need to really be able to set us up for that peak performance?
Yeah, something super interesting about the microbiome is that just in your colon alone, there are more non-human cells than in all the human cells in your whole body.
Wow.
So I think of our bodies really as the mothership
Yeah.
for this whole ecosystem. It really
Yeah.
is an ecosystem of organisms. And when we treat them right, they treat us right.
Of course.
So it really is a
Winning
team.
strategy. It's amazing how that
Exactly.
works.
Um, and the way I like to think about this ecosystem is that you want what we call diversity,
Mhm.
right? You know that there can't be 12 quarterbacks
Yeah.
on the
Power
team.
of team. That's what diversity is. It's like, boy, the more unique we are, the more powerful the team is going to be, and really owning our uniqueness.
Yeah, so we know we get into problems in the gut when certain types of bacteria predominate
Yeah.
that are more pro-inflammatory. Um, a lot of people with the Western diet have these kind of critters. I say they love cheap fat and sugar, right? And we know
Yeah.
that the gut controls our cravings maybe more than our thinking brain does.
Mhm.
So what we really want to think about is that ecosystem. And I like to compare it, to a jungle, a tropical rainforest. And there's just this diversity of organisms living there. There's some really tall trees that create the canopy, and then there's the mid level, and there's things that live on the forest floor. And each of those organisms has a role to play.
Yeah.
So we can think of the microbiome in the same way whether, and we really want to embrace that tropical rainforest team.
Yeah.
And then you could also think about on the other end, a desert,
Mm,
or a tundra, something where there's really not, I mean, there's life,
sure.
but it's not that diversity, not that hundreds of thousands of species in a small area. It's really kind of, um, it's a hard environment to live in,
Mm,
right? So
yes.
things are not flourishing. So that's really kind of when I think of dysbiosis, of really having a predominance of bacteria that are not the ones we want. It's more that desert, that tundra. They kind of get in there and take over versus a flourishing, diverse ecosystem like the tropical rainforest. That's really the microbiome we want to create and nurture for optimal health.
And how do we get it? So how do we know when we're in the desert, and how do we know when we've made it to the rainforest?
Yeah, so you might be able to tell that you're in that desert environment if you are having a lot of gut symptoms,
Okay.
right? The bloating, the heartburn, the constipation, those are warning signs, right? And it's a warning, it's really the inflammation levels are high.
Mhm, mhm,
Maybe you're not really able to eat certain foods, you're not absorbing certain foods. So, nutrition absorption issues. And again, reflecting on your immune status or the autoimmune issues. So, those are really kind of the consequences,
mm.
we think, of an unhealthy gut. And all of those, construct leads to downstream health effects. We need a healthy microbiome to really address digestion first off, right? So if the system is not working well together and we can't digest the food we're eating, not only do we not get the benefit of those secondary processes that happen that are so good for us, but we're just really not able to absorb the nutrition that's coming in. And the gut microbiome in a healthy state actually um, makes some hormones for us. It makes vitamins for us. So again, we really need to have this optimal microbiome ecosystem
Mm.
to get that and to absorb all of our nutrition. We've talked about the inflammation, but ways that inflammation can show up, joint aches and pains, that makes sense to us, especially for our athletes out there. They may know a little bit about that. We've talked about skin health, right? That's a big part of it. But things that you may not really think of related to inflammation, like trouble sleeping, depression, fatigue, brain fog, hormone imbalances, thyroid problems, these are all related to kind of a systemic, things are off kilter, right?
Mhm.
We use the word inflammation a lot. It really just means your tissues can't function
Mm.
normally because they're kind of swollen. They're malformed. They're not really in that optimum health and that optimum level for performance. And it can affect the whole body.
So, Dr. Hunter, as we're studying this and really learning, we're committed to the education of it. What is it? What can I learn from it? And empowering us to be able to leave this conversation and, number one, know more about it. Number two, be curious about how can I do something this week that actually gives me the opportunity to really explore and stat up, how's my team doing? How is all of this happening? And number three, to really feel empowered that I have the opportunity to really win my health and to win my gut health. So, take us through some winning strategies. What do we do from this conversation to set us up this week to really win our gut health?
One thing to really start thinking about is our diet.
Yeah.
You know, what we put in our body, make 220 food choices a day, and all of those directly impact our gut health. So, really thinking about how do I reduce processed foods? How do I reduce added sugar and preservatives? Because we know sugar is probably one of the main impacts on a healthy gut. And so really kind of taking stock of the diet. Again, it's focusing on that ecosystem. How do we kind of even things out? How do we get the right balance back in? You've probably heard of probiotics. You've probably heard of prebiotics, but maybe you don't know what that means, right?
Or the difference, right?
Yeah,
Or when to use
exactly.
them and when not to. Yes.
The benefits are fermented foods. And I think really just taking it back to that whole food plant focus, right? Can we get some whole grains? Can we get some healthy plant protein? And can we focus on fruits and veggies? That's a huge step forward. Um, Also, what we consume in the liquid form, not being hydrated enough or having enough water really affects the mechanisms of our GI tract, especially in our stomach. We produce a lot of gastric acid and stomach juices every day. So, really making sure we're hydrated to start digestion in a good way. Alcohol, excessive alcohol can have a negative impact on our gut. And also, those sugar sweetened beverages are probably a really sneaky way that we're affecting our gut health, even when we're using maybe a 0 calorie sweetener. So that's a really highly processed chemical to have no calories and taste like sugar.
Yeah.
Our taste buds don't know the difference, and it really has some direct impact on our gut health. Taking stock of your stress level,
Mm.
right? So the gut brain axis, right? If you're stressed out up here, maybe you feel it in your gut. I know I get a clenching in the pit of my stomach whenever I'm a little anxious or stressed. And so, really working through ways of how to address stress and anxiety to really help calm and settle our gut, and vice versa. A healthy gut helps calm and settle our mind. Controlling your blood sugar, again, we've kind of talked about the importance of food and the way that limiting processed sugar can do. And then also, when we talked about the over the counter medications and prescription medications, we know that antibiotics, right? Medications that kill bacteria in our bodies, while they maybe have a very great purpose,
Yes.
we tend to kind of, as a society, overuse them, and physicians are part of the problem, right? But sometimes you have a virus, but you want an antibiotic because you want to feel better faster, and you think that's going to make the difference, right? So we as consumers tend to go to the physician asking for antibiotics sometimes when we don't need them. But also, we get exposed to antibacterial things in our environment. So you may not really think of hand sanitizer and bleach and antibacterial soaps, um, some of the different additives that go into common products like our toothpaste. Some of those really affect the health of the good critters too, right? How do we optimize our environment and maybe make some choices that are going to be a little bit more gut friendly along the way?
So today's desired outcome is really the understanding of how am I feeling? We want to start with our awareness and really get our mind, our body, and our gut, brains all connected, like being able to be in alignment. What am I thinking? How am I feeling? And from a gut perspective, do a gut check in terms of when I eat this meal. Do I feel good? Do I feel like I'm ready to actually let my body perform? Or am I tired or am I sluggish? And I want to explore just the performance barriers that get in the way. All of this sounds amazing. Of course, yes, it's the beginning of a new season and a new year, and we want to be fabulous. We have resolutions, we have all these ideas. And then just our rituals and routines, our habits, our stresses and strains, they kind of kick our butt in terms of us being able to be this 10 self that we want, or really our best version of us. So when we feel stressed, we go to the things that aren't so fabulous for us. So give us some winning strategies on being able to champion change for our gut and really recognize that, okay, I'm getting stressed, I'm reaching for the sugar, or I'm wanting to kind of just have something that feels like it makes me feel better. What's something new that I can reach for so that I'm championing the change that I want?
Yeah, I think when you can take a minute to kind of pause
Mhm.
and say, am I doing this because I'm hungry or because I'm stressed or I'm tired? And then maybe try to address that underlying cause,
Mhm.
right? So if you're truly hungry, I mean, one question I always ask myself is, am I hungry or am I thirsty?
Mm.
Because humans actually have a really poor recognition of our thirst response. So, you know, stopping and how much water have I drank today when you're like craving the chocolate, and maybe have 8 ounces of water and see if you're still hungry after that, right? Because um, hydration is just so important for us overall. If you are hungry, if you can take that moment and have that deep breath, is what I'm reaching for serving my health goals?
Mm.
Right? Is it going to help me with my performance? Is it going to help me with my weight loss goals? Or my goals of preventing chronic disease? And if the answer is no, then we need to make another choice, right? So I always say, if you're craving something sweet, can you go for a fruit? Could you make yourself a berry smoothie? Could you have an apple? If you compare that with a healthy protein like a peanut butter or some nuts, it's going to help you feel more satisfied. Secret ingredient is fiber
Mm.
and something that's great for our gut. And also, if you're tired, can you make a new routine where you get into bed a little bit earlier, or you turn off the screens 30 minutes sooner so that your brain can decompress and go to sleep? And if you're feeling tired, maybe that's a great time to take a little walk,
Mm.
right? Boost your energy that way, get some body movement. So these are all kind of little lifestyle strategies that we can use. And we have to have the awareness, right? Because if you're not tuned in to how you're feeling, you're just kind of acting out of habit and automation. It's hard to take that step back. One interesting thing is that we know with the gut brain axis that when we're craving, it's not really our thinking brain, right? It may be those critters. It may be those critters that like cheap fat and sugar craving the candy bar. So the new hope is when we start focusing in on the gut health and changing the microbiome and fueling our body with these plant foods and making the choice for the apple instead, you will notice your cravings change
Mm.
because you crave what the critters crave. And it's really important to feed those critters and optimize the right bugs in our microbiome because if we don't feed them, what do you think they eat? Our gut.
Mm.
So there's a very small mucus layer between the contents of your colon and your bloodstream. And a hungry microbiome starts eating away at that mucus layer because it's a lot of cross-linked fibers.
Mm.
So that's where we get into that leaky gut phenomenon. So you got to feed the bugs. And ideally, we feed them the good stuff, and that actually shifts the microbiome, creates more of that tropical rainforest, and then we have the downstreams effects of less inflammation, better immune systems, better mental health. And so it's the beginning of the story, and I'm just so excited to be here with you.
And is there a particular, should we be eating every 2 or 3 hours? Like, is there a winning strategy to the amount of time that we're eating so that the digestion is set up for great success?
The biggest tip I have with that is to avoid eating late at night. So our microbiome is on the same circadian rhythm that we should be on. We are what we call diurnal creatures. We should be up and active during the day. So our gut wants to be active during the day as well. And really the nighttime, while they're not really sleeping, that's when the secondary work of the gut happens. So if you are consuming really late into the evening, and 3 hours before last calories and bedtime, so you can tailor that to how it looks for you. But that gives time for food to kind of get through the system and not be putting so much pressure on the microbiome for digestion. Otherwise, I would really pay attention to your body. You know, um, some people don't like to eat in the morning. That's okay. Whatever feels right for you. Some people like to eat every 2 hours because that's what helps them stay focused and stay on top of their game. Other people might have a large meal in the middle of the day and then maybe nothing or small snacks. So I don't think there's like a prescribed
Mm.
we need to eat a certain way for the gut health, but really just thinking about that period of um, no calories after dinner is usually what I recommend, and trying to get that as early as possible. We
And
we want to aim. Oh, go ahead.
is there a great dinner that we should have in terms of, I know we're eating from the rainbow, I know we have a lot of winning strategies, but from just setting our gut up to really be able to kind of win the night,
Mhm.
is there particular foods that we should be eating and not eating?
I would focus on really the whole grains and because that's where we get a lot of our fiber from for that gut health. Wide variety of fruits and veg. So can you get a couple colors in at dinner? And really working on limiting oil and a heavy fatty meal in the evening because fat really slows down the digestion. Um, so thinking about, something that your body can handle in those few hours before you go to sleep.
And specifically, what would be a good whole grain?
So something like brown rice, quinoa, some of the ancient grains that we think of, like barley, farro, millet. I like to add farro to soups and stews. The My Plate method we've talked about before. Half your plate should be fruits and veg because we're really trying to get to that 7 to 13 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. You get a quarter for a lean protein and a quarter for a whole grain. So it's not really like the big pile of pasta with the sauce and a little bit of broccoli on the side. It's really like, okay, do I have my dinner size salad and maybe a side of a whole grain? And the protein I like to think of as the topping or the condiment. So
Okay.
plant foods are going to, get broken down, be pretty easy on the system, trying to avoid a lot of added oil, a lot of added fat late in the evening.
And is this where when we add the alcohol at night that, with dinner or like I'm just thinking about the normal meal that would have some, desserts with it, some alcohol with it, maybe a big, piece of meat or, I'm a vegetarian, so I can't even imagine that, but I know all my little women and everybody eats that. I'm just envisioning or even pizza, something from a pizza perspective. You go out with your friends. Some night times that's a really social time to have happy hour and then dinner. I want us to be set up to enjoy that community and the joy of having, dinner and drinks. And how do we set ourselves up to really win that?
So with the alcohol piece, we also recommend about 3 hours between alcohol consumption and bedtime. And, so that somebody say would be, oh, great. Well, I can have it at 9, then I'll go to bed at midnight, right? We want to think about 7 to 9 hours of healthy sleep at night. And really, to get our best sleep, we should focus on a similar bedtime and a similar wake up time every day. So again, you can enjoy your glass of wine or have your social time, or maybe you have a mocktail. That you don't have to have alcohol to celebrate or be social. And in lifestyle medicine, we try to really think about reducing that. But I think if you say you could have dinner by 6,
Okay.
and maybe you have your glass of wine while you're making dinner and
Mhm.
chatting with your partner or your friends, or cut it off by that time, then you're really prepped for bedtime by 9,
Love it.
and that alcohol is mostly out of your system,
Mhm.
so that it's not going to affect your sleep because we know that alcohol late at night affects our REM sleep, which is that late night sleep. It's where we dream. It's where we kind of process and get rid of the day. So really important for mental health, and alcohol will interrupt that. So again, trying to keep things a little earlier in the
Yeah.
day when your body and your gut are optimized for it so that you can really prepare for good sleep at night. That's why these 6 pillars of health and lifestyle medicine are so important because they're all interrelated. You can't just be great at sleep but terrible at diet and physical activity. It's there are places we can make improvements in all of them, and they do go together, and they all tie in with gut health.
Well, and that's the power of team, really starting and thinking of our body as our first team. And we have three brains at this point: mental, our mind; emotional, our heart; and now our gut for our physical. And what a gift to really be able to be empowered and educated and able to start making some different choices. So, week one of a 10-week series as we really start to understand just the introduction. And most importantly, today we're starting with an awareness on us, statting it up on a scale of 1 to 10. Where is my gut health? How am I feeling? Do I have bloated? Am I bloated? Do I feel like my food really energizes me and is serving from a nutrition perspective? Or is it more that I'm eating from a stress perspective or trying to emotionally make myself happy with food? Love the new thinking of being for my gut and really saying, how do I set my gut up to help set me up to do amazing things? And then the new skill of those choices. Am I choosing things that are really for my gut health versus a habit or something that I'm looking for from an emotional perspective? And then just the new hope that we got this, we can do this. We're happy to be your relationship to understanding something new, getting coached up, and getting educated. So, Dr. Hunter, winning strategies for our first week.
Yeah, so we're going to have you go through the workbook, review this material, and really reflect. I want you to keep a journal through this progress. So really reflect about those signs of poor gut health that we talked about, the fatigue, the mood symptoms, the bloating, um, craving carbs and sugar, and really say, where am I on this? What's showing up for me? Make sure you take the assessments so that if you haven't done it already, you can really get your score. And that gives you a place to focus, right? Like maybe you're knocking it out of the park with stress management, but your eating could really use some work. So that's really what we want to do is approach it from this growth mindset of what can I take away? What can I reflect on and really get in tune with how my body's feeling? And then learn more about where I can go from here.
So our next workout is all about leaky gut and really, what's happening, what is that, what's the term, and most importantly, how do I stop it and how do I set myself up to really heal from that? So this week it's all about the introduction, statting yourself up, figuring out who you are from a gut perspective, or how healthy are you, and go out and win your gut health this week. Really on a scale of 1 to 10, start that journaling, get aware so that week by week we can coach you up to get better and better. Thank you, Dr. Hunter.
Thank you guys.